I'm sorry, but why are the Bruins recalling Max Jones and Patrick Brown instead of Fabian Lysell or Georgii Merkulov?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Beat. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On the podcast today, we are going to discuss the curious recalls of Max Jones and Patrick Brown over some more tantalizing, youthful options. We'll also preview tonight's game against the New Jersey Devils and update the Eastern Conference playoff picture that is increasingly tightening and perhaps pushing the Bruins out. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. If you're new to the podcast, I'm a lifelong Boston Bruins fan. I've been covering this team, writing about them for various outlets for almost 20 years now, since the Joe Thornton trade. In fact, that was my very first blog post entitled Say It Ain't Joe. And I was a full-time hockey news editor for The Score and have been hosting this podcast since 2019 from the comfort of my home in Guelph, Ontario. Shout out to the Storm here in the background where Matt Poitras, among others, have played junior hockey. Dan Paille played here as well. Home of Rich Peverly, Guelph, Ontario is. And we are talking today about the Bruins recalling Patrick Brown and Max Jones from Providence while placing Mark Kastelik on injured reserve, retroactive to Sunday, January 20th. Kastelik has been in or out of the lineup a little bit lately with various injuries. Not exactly sure the nature of this one, but he's on injured reserve, will miss at least a week, retroactive to Sunday, which is a big loss because he brings a lot of energy, some scoring punch, and some literal punch to the table as well. He's got got a good thing going on here with the Bruins since being acquired from the Ottawa Senators. Now, the Bruins with a couple of uninspiring recalls. Now, Max Jones, we could maybe see he was signed by the Bruins on July 1st. He's still fairly young, 26, and has appeared in 26 games with the Providence Bruins this season, 8 goals, 3 assists for 11 points. He had a 2-goal game for Providence most recently. He did appear in 4 games with the Bruins earlier this season, not making much of an impact in that limited time. In fact, he was a bit of a revolving door into the penalty box, much like our boy Nikita Zadorov. 8 penalty minutes in 4 games, 0 points, and a -4 for the Bruins so far this season. Also recalled was Patrick Brown, the 32-year-old. He's appeared in 37 games as team captain of the Providence Bruins this season. 9 goals, 16 assists for 25 points. He did appear in 1 game for the Bruins this season as well, back in November against Dallas. Decent point totals for Patrick Brown, but my issue is, why are we not calling up A, Georgii Merkulov, or B, Fabian Lysell? Vinny Lettieri was recently recalled, and for good reason, I guess. He was tops on the team in scoring with 14 goals and 35 points, leading the Providence Bruins in both of those categories, and good on him. A veteran, 29 years old, has earned a shot to play for the big club and has done pretty well, scoring 2 goals recently for the Boston Bruins. Patrick Brown, captain of the Providence Bruins, that's probably where he should remain. The Bruins struggle to score, although they have come on a bit recently, but still been struggling on the power play. And that's where a guy like Georgii Merkulov could really help you. He has been a beast on the power play for the Providence Bruins for quite some time and has earned a shot to come up and show what he can do for the Boston Bruins. As Mark Diver, who covers the Providence Bruins, pointed out, the Bruins have invested 2.5 seasons in Merkulov's development. In that time, he's put up 158 points in 173 AHL games, including 21 goals on the power play. Not saying he's the answer on Boston's 30th in the NHL power play, but he is worth a look. And I certainly cannot disagree with that. Some would argue, well, he's better suited in a top 6 role than playing on the third line. I don't see that. If you can play Oliver Wahlstrom on the third line and be happy with getting 2 points out of him in very limited impact so far since picking him up off waivers, you can have a 24-year-old Georgii Merkulov who has been very, very effective for the Providence Bruins over the past 2.5 seasons and has been given only a 3-game stint with the big club in which he did record a power play point. It makes no sense to not give these guys a bit of a look. Do you expect Patrick Brown to be key to the Bruins going forward? No. No disrespect to Patrick Brown. He's a veteran, a leader. He's been productive in the AHL, but he is not going to be a member of a contending Boston Bruins team. Is Georgii Merkulov going to be a star at the NHL level? Is he going to make a huge impact? Not necessarily. And I doubt he'll be like a star player at the NHL level, but at the same time, your power play is struggling. You've got a young player who has done everything asked of him at the AHL level, and to not give him a shot on the third line and on a power play unit is a disservice to the development that you have put into him. Even in the Bruins prospect report that was posted yesterday, they mentioned Merkulov has a point in all 3 games last week. He's got a 5-game point streak going on, 6 points in that span. He is up to 10 goals, 23 assists, in 35 games this season. And assistant coach Trent Whitfield believes Merkulov's game is constantly progressing. Quote, Merkulov's game has been really coming along. He's been playing both ends, hunting the puck defensively, shutting things down in his own end, and he's getting rewarded down at the other end of the ice. It's good to see that he's taken steps defensively, and it's working offensively as well. That would be a perfect addition to the big club in a third line role. You're not asking him to come in and carry top 6 minutes. You're not asking him to come in and score 20, 30 goals. You're just asking him to continue to do what he's been doing at the AHL level and very effectively, and perhaps chip in with some power play minutes. And he has proven to be effective with the extra man at the AHL level. You can't tell me that a second power play unit of Justin Brazeau, Charlie Coyle, Vinny Lettieri, Jordan Osterley, and Morgan Geekie couldn't benefit from the addition of a Georgii Merkulov. No disrespect to Lettieri, but Merkulov should be given that opportunity as well. And you have these young guys. You are in a bit of a transition year here. You're not quite sure which path you're going to take. You have to see what you have in some of these young guys that you have been developing at the AHL level and just see whether or not they can hang with the Boston Bruins, because they could be effective, cheap options moving forward. It doesn't make any sense to just continue to keep them buried at the level, especially a guy who is an RFA and constantly seeing other players being recalled above him. That's got to be disheartening, demoralizing, and perhaps even ostracizing to the point where he could just decide to go back to Russia and play in the KHL easily, or demand a trade. Now, it's a bit different from Fabian Lysell. He's a bit younger, still developing a bit, but with a guy like Merkulov, it doesn't make any sense to recall these guys over him, and that's an L for Don Sweeney, in my opinion. Now, the Bruins will play a game tonight against the New Jersey Devils, and that is a game we will preview here as the podcast continues. Select Quote is a place you want to go to get the winning strategy for your insurance needs. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure with a winning strategy for you. They make it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets them apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agent tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. At Select Quote, they shop and you save. All right, the Boston Bruins are in action tonight against the New Jersey Devils, a team that is one of the tops in the Eastern Conference, but they have been sliding a little bit. So either the Bruins are catching the Devils at the right time, or the Bruins are just what the Devils need in order to get back on track. There's a couple ways of looking at it, and we'll see which way it goes tonight. The Devils are on a 4-game losing streak, losing to Florida, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Ottawa. They're only 2-5-3 over their past 10 games. They're still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, but again, maybe the Bruins are catching them at the right time. In terms of offense, they're 15th ranked, 3.02 goals per game. Their defense is 5th ranked at 2.53 goals per game. Jacob Markstrom has come in and played very well for them with a .912 save percentage so far this season, 21-9-5 record. They're led in scoring by Jack Hughes over their past 5 games. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists, and overall, he is the team's scoring leader with 55 points in 49 games. Jesper Bratt close behind with 52 points in 49 games. David Pastrnak, of course, leads the way for the Bruins. He's now up to 53 points in 48 games. So whereas once he was below a point per game average, he is now at 53 points. 53 divided by 48 times 82. He's on pace now for a 91-point season, which is much more in line with what we expect. Maybe he can even push that to getting back to around the 100-point mark. There's a big gap between he and the second place scorer on the Bruins at 37 points. The Devils have 3 guys ahead of Marchand in scoring, Hughes, Bratt, and then Nico Hischier at 39 points. Timo Meier, always dangerous as well. And then you have a blue line of Dougie Hamilton, our old friend, as well as Luke Hughes, who could be equally as dangerous. The Bruins coming into this one with a 26th ranked offense, 2.77 goals per game, a 23rd ranked defense, 3.17. It's the first of a back-to-back for the Bruins. Jonas Korpisalo played the previous game, so it's likely that Jeremy Swayman will get the start tonight, and then they'll go with Korpisalo facing his old team in the Ottawa Senators tomorrow night back in Boston. Jeremy Swayman is 15-15-4 with an .897 save percentage. The Bruins in their last 10 games are 3-5-2. They've won three of their past 4, however. But this is going to be a tough one for them if they want to hang tight with the rising number of playoff contenders in the Eastern Conference. It's going to be interesting to see who comes into the lineup with Kastelic out and who might come into the lineup, whether it's Max Jones or Patrick Brown. Of the two, I guess I'd prefer to see Max Jones. Kastelic last played on the fourth line with John Beecher, Justin Brazeau. Perhaps they go Brazeau, Beecher, and Jones. We'll have to see what happens there. Of course, Elias Lindholm was on the third line in the previous game as Brad Marchand, Matt Poitras, and Charlie Coyle skated on the second line. And we saw an article this morning, those of you who subscribe to The Athletic, from Fluto Shinzawa kind of lamenting the fact that he is on the third line in the first year of a contract that's paying him $7.75 million per season. Fluto writes, Don Sweeney's projection on Lindholm looks like one of the general manager's biggest misses, and it's a mistake that is impossible to correct. For now, maybe Lindholm can be a good third-line center. That he's getting paid twice the position's going rate is something the Bruins have no choice to eat. This is in year one of a 7-year contract. Not great. And a very, bad-looking contract at the moment. We're going to talk later on this week about untouchables for the Bruins, immovables, and trade candidates. Lindholm certainly falls onto the unmovable section right now because there is absolutely nobody who's going to take on that contract. The Bruins saw Lindholm centering the number one line between Zacha and Pasternak, working as the bumper on the number one power play unit, shadowing top opponents, killing penalties. Lindholm and Pasternak have not really developed much chemistry to this point. And Morgan Geekie has stepped up and jumped onto the top line. Matt Poitras, not as reliable defensively as Lindholm, but he's centering Marchand and Coyle right now, and he's making plays, pushing the pace, creating offense, controlling the puck. That's what you ask for from a young center like him. And we'll see if those lines remain intact here for tonight's game against the New Jersey Devils. And it's a game the Bruins, it's going to be a tough stretch here as the Bruins play the Devils tonight. The Senators, who got smoked last night by the resurgent New York Rangers. That's something to keep an eye on. Apparently, according to Adam Pellerin of Nesson, Sheldon Keefe is currently laying into his Devils at morning skate, laced with F-bombs, getting on his team about details. You know they're going to be wanting to take down the Bruins and get back on track. It's going to be a good game, a big one, and it will have implications on the Eastern Conference playoff race. That is something that we will take a look at here as the podcast continues. The NFL playoffs are more fun to watch with FanDuel at your side. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit fanduel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, from here on out, every point certainly matters for the Boston Bruins because the Eastern Conference playoff picture is so incredibly tight at the moment. If you look at the top 5 teams, those are pretty set right now. Even though New Jersey is on a bit of a tailspin, 2-5-3 over their past 10, they're still firmly in 5th place, 5 points ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning, although Tampa does have 3 games in hand. New Jersey's got 59 points. New Jersey has 58 points. The Panthers have 59. The Hurricanes have 61. The Maple Leafs at 62. The Washington Capitals way up there with 69 points. Between New Jersey and Tampa, there's that 5-point gap, although New Jersey or Tampa does have games in hand. And then between Tampa and the 11th, 12th place Rangers and Flyers, there's only 3 points separating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. And the Bruins are right in the middle of that. You have Tampa with 53 points, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston, each with 52 points, Columbus, 51, the Rangers, Flyers, each with 50 points. And the Rangers are really coming on again after kind of cratering and falling out 6-1-3 over their past 10. You figured they would be a playoff team coming off a President's Trophy win last season. They're on the rise. And if you look at point percentage right now, the Bruins are currently 10th in the Eastern Conference, just ahead of the New York Rangers. The Rangers are 2 points back with a game in hand. You have Ottawa and Montreal tied for the wild card spots, each with 52 points, 553-point percentages. You have the Columbus Blue Jackets with a 543-point percentage. They're in action tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that will be a tough one for them. The Bruins are at 542. The Rangers, 532. The Flyers at 521. So there's quite a few teams. The only teams you can really rule out of the playoff picture at the moment would be probably the Buffalo Sabres, who are at 41 points. They're 11 points out of a wild card spot. The New York Islanders are 7 points out. The Red Wings are 5 points out. That's going to be tough. The Penguins probably too far behind as well. All those teams are at 500 or below. But don't forget, the Bruins still with the second worst goal differential in the Eastern Conference, tied with the Detroit Red Wings at -20. The Sabres, Islanders, Flyers, Canadiens, and Rangers, and the Blue Jackets all below 0. You have your top 6 teams. The Senators are at 0. They're really looking like a team that should grab a spot, especially if Linus Ullmark comes back and solidifies their goaltending. They were getting great goaltending from Levi Merilainen. He's tailed off the past couple games. All that to say, the Eastern Conference is very tight. Right now, the wildcard spots belong to Ottawa, Montreal. They've played fewer games than the Bruins and have just as many points. Therefore, they have better point percentages. Columbus is right behind. The Rangers are coming up. The Flyers aren't going away. So every point from here on out matters for the Boston Bruins with 34 games remaining on the schedule. The Four Nations break is going to be big for everybody to get some rest. And the Bruins do have some key players participating in that event. Charlie McAvoy, as long as he's healthy. Brad Marchand. Jeremy Swayman. I can't remember if, Elias Lindholm in there as well. So if David Pastrnak can get some rest and come back firing even better, then that will be a benefit for the Bruins going forward. But there's a real question as to whether they should be going for it or maybe just settle with whatever comes their way. Again, later on this week, we'll take a look at the untouchables, immovables, and the trade candidates. We'll recap tonight's game against the Devils on tomorrow's podcast, as well as preview the game against the Senators. Just bring you all the latest on the black and gold, because that's what we're all about here on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Please do check out the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast next. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. And we'll talk to you again here tomorrow on Locked On Boston Bruins.